So most of you have figured out already how to answer questions, but I'll just say it just for the sake of continuity. We do have a questions tab. You can put in your responses, questions, anything like that. And so that way you can ask me questions as we move forward, and we'll have a shorter Q&A session at the end because we just did a lot of Q&A. We also have our handouts of our slides under the handouts tab. So go ahead and look at that, check that out, and you'll be able to download that handout with the slides. And thank you everyone for the encouraging messages. All right. And then you'll also be able to access a recording of the webinar after we're done here. Like I said, you'll click the same link you clicked on to join, and then you'll be able to view that. Okay, so let's move forward. So what is Project Catalog? So we've talked about it a little bit thus far, but we're really going to delve into it, and we're going to actually get to do like a real overview of what to expect when you're using this new feature. So by creating projects, freelancers can craft defined work with a set cost, timeline, package of deliverables, and it lets interested clients come to them. So clients can then browse these projects and simply start new working relationships in a few clicks with very clear expectations about what's to come next. So Project Catalog is another way for our freelancers to build their businesses and create those new client relationships on Upwork. The goal is to give our freelancers as much flexibility as possible, amplifying their businesses and creating another avenue for clients to find them. So now we're going to talk about some of the advantages to using Project Catalog. So there's less back and forth with clients. The scope, the cost, the price, all of that is set by you. It's more efficient for your workflow. You get to set the parameters and let clients come to you. You can work on projects because you built them, and it's usually the ones that you enjoy. You can diversify your business and add more opportunities to gain jobs, adding on to the marketplace. You can add more opportunities for more exposure. You have full control over your projects. If you want to be active, you can have your projects turned on, but if you find yourself becoming too busy or you just need a break or some time off, then you can turn them off. And it's easier for clients to browse and select the services, which means there will be more contracts for you as the freelancer. So now we're going to do the walkthrough of how to set a project up. And so this is the really, I guess, the important part of this webinar. And I really hope this is the one that everybody really gets a lot of their questions answered with. Because I know when I first started using the feature, I definitely saw there were a lot of fields to fill out, and so I hope that when we go through this, we can answer some of those questions. So the first step is you'll build your project. So you'll describe what you're going to do in your project overview. Will you be building a website? How about an explainer video? Maybe you'll be creating a company logo. Once you've decided on the task, you'll choose your details, including the project category. You'll use the search to find a category that fits your project the best. This is important because clients won't be able to find projects in categories where they don't belong. We talked a little bit about categories, so do keep in mind that if your category is missing, to let us know, and then that way we can start to add those categories into there. So this is what your project overview will look like. You'll want to add an interesting title. You'll want to select the category in which your project fits the best. And then you'll press save and continue to go to the next step. Here's a tip. Clients won't be able to find projects in categories where they don't belong. As I said, we have all of these categories currently, and you're able to go through and search for your category. Like I said before, if there's a category that is missing or you can't find it, let us know, and we can either point you in the right direction to the category that it is in, or we will add that to our list of categories to add on. So there are also optional editions, which is industry, environment, file format, and other types of things like this. So please note that these three options are very specific to this category, which is 3D product animation. If you're in a category like writing or voiceover, it's going to have different options. But you do have the options to narrow down your offerings even more so with these optional subcategories. So they have different tags for each category, and it helps you to further categorize your project and kind of define the scope of what you'll do. So here's another tip. You can create different tiers for a single project to give client options. You can choose to build tiers with different levels of service, revisions, pricing, etc. So this can kind of help you explain to a client, okay, so with the starter tier, it'll be 2 or 3 days, and you'll get 2 revisions, and your runtime of your video will be 60 seconds. And so then if they're wanting a bigger project or something with more scope, then you could suggest that they purchase the advanced option, which would give them, in this case, unlimited revisions, and it would be a much longer runtime. And, perhaps they may have some background music. And so that's going to cost them a little bit higher of a premium. And so that's something you're able to do within Project Catalog as well. So then here on the project overview, you have your 3-tier slider, so you can decide on how many tiers. You can choose between 1 or 3. And then you'll want to put in your delivery day. So how long will it take to complete the project under each of these tiers? You want to keep in mind for this one, if you have more and then you'll have the project description that you'll need to fill out. And so this is really the bread and butter of your project. And so this is where the meat of the project is going to be, right? So this is where you're going to really outline what you're going to be doing for the client. And so you'll have your project summary, where you'll briefly explain the project and how it sets, what sets you and this project apart from other people doing the same thing. So what makes your project unique, and why should the client buy your project, right? The second thing is the project steps. And so with Project Catalog, we want to define this project into steps so that the client knows before they even purchase it what they can expect from you as the freelancer. And so, if I'm making a 3D video, maybe I want my steps to be step 1, mock-up. Step 2, first draft. Step 3, revisions. Step 4, second draft. Step 5, revisions. And then step 6, final draft. And so that could be an example of 2 revisions on a video project. And so that would be the project steps, right? And so all of these things are going to basically outline and define your project so that the person that's purchasing it, your client, knows what to expect from you. And then we've got our frequently asked questions section. So this is really great because now we get to put on our client thinking caps, and we're going to think like, what would a client want to know if they were looking at this project? So maybe they might want to know, how long is it going to take you to do this? You could say, well, this could take anywhere from 2 to 6 business days, depending on the scope of the project or which service tier you select. Another frequently asked question could be something like, what if I'm not happy with the work delivered? And then you can address, well, we have 2 revisions per service tier, so you're able to get this revised twice. And so you've got a couple of options here to kind of address things before they get asked. That way you can make sure that you're answering their questions preemptively. And that also gives them peace of mind, making sure that they feel comfortable with buying this project from you. And so then now, this is an example of project steps. So we have like the intro consultation, mock-ups, first draft, revisions and edits, and then final draft. So kind of like what I was saying earlier, but this is what it'll look like once you put it all in. So then what would you ask the client, what would the client ask you about this project? So here are some other ideas apart from what I said earlier. How can I reach you? How often will we communicate? What kind of software do you use for this project? So these are some ideas of things that clients may want to know that you may want to address in your frequently asked questions. And so that kind of gives them more insight into your business and your work product and kind of how you anticipate the process going with them. Okay, so then the next section is our requirements. And these are the requirements from the client. So a lot of the time, when we're starting work, we want to make sure that the client is giving us enough information to know that we can do what they're wanting us to do, right? And so in this case, we can set requirements, which are literally required for them before they can purchase your project. And so they have to submit this information before they can actually get started with the work, right? So you'll describe what you need from the client. This could be maybe if you're creating a video for them, a logo or something, or if you're wanting to do a voiceover for them, you'll need the script, things like that. And then you'll decide whether you should write or attach something to their request. So they can attach a file, or they can just type it in the box, and you'll get to choose that. Or you can create a multiple choice, just depending on how you want to do that. And then you'll decide whether or not it's mandatory for the client to do this before purchasing their project. And so if you check the mandatory box requirement, it is mandatory, and they won't be able to go to purchase the project until they do it. If you don't click it, then it's not mandatory, and they can still purchase your project without providing that information. So that's very important that you review that before your project goes live. So then when you're ready, you'll finalize it. One of the things I want to note on here is that we do have an option for maximum number of simultaneous projects. So the cool part about Project Catalog is just because one client buys your project doesn't mean it disappears off of the catalog. It actually will stay there until it's reached that maximum number of simultaneous projects. So you can put it in there like 5, for example, and when you get your 5th client at one time, so they have to be all running consecutively, then it'll kind of take a short break and it'll not be on the catalog anymore. But now let's say that you only got like 1 or 2, it'll stay up there until you've reached that 5 simultaneous number or whatever you put in there. So that's kind of a nice little fail-safe, just in case it goes live and 4 people buy it and you're like, oh no, I don't have the bandwidth to do that. You can make sure that that number's in there based on how much you can handle at one time, and you're never overbooking yourself on accident. And so then the next thing I want to bring to your attention is our copyright notice. Make sure you read that before you submit. Same thing with our terms of service and our privacy notice. You'll never want to check anything without reading it, so please read it before you check it. And then once you've submitted it, it'll go in for review. And so once you're finished, you'll click submit, it'll send it to the Upwork team, and then you'll see it in your display with an under review and a timestamp. And so then you'll be able to know when you submitted it and how long it's been there and how long it's been pending review. So I will say that the pending review process can take up to 5 business days. So please be patient with us. We get a lot of projects and we're still working through them. So if you've submitted one and it hasn't been approved yet, just do keep that in mind, and just give it a little bit of time before you contact customer service to check in on it. I did have someone come through and say unsplash.com has a lot of free to use stock photos. Yes, actually, I didn't show it on the presentation, but on the actual project catalog site, we have the link to Unsplash as well. So I've used them before, Unsplash. I've used them before. We're not affiliated with them, but we do have their link on there if you want to use any of their stock photos. Those work really well. Okay, so moving forward. So now we have project statuses. So your project can be in any one of these 3 steps. It can be under review or pending approval, which means that our team is still working on the project and will notify you when the review is complete. It can be approved or accepted, and in this case, congratulations, your project is live. And so it'll move to your active projects tab, and you'll receive an email confirming that your project is live. So then needs changes. In this case, if your project needs changes, you'll have to go through and look for your email from suggestions from our team. I've been actually on the community lately reading what other people have been saying about this, and I've noticed that people have been getting their projects marked and sent back to them for needs changes when they're doing things that may be outside of the terms of service, or maybe they are missing critical information and they're not outlining their projects well enough. So really what I would encourage you to do is, 1, read the email from customer service to see what else you need to add to it before it can be approved. And 2, make sure you're reading your terms of service prior to submitting and making sure that nothing you're doing is going against the terms of service. So another thing I want to mention is for JSS and Project Catalog, if the client doesn't provide what you need, or if you don't want to work with them for any reason, you have 24 hours to cancel a contract before it affects your JSS score. This is a feature that we are allowing to be rolled out until the end of the year. So this could change, but for now, you are able to have that 24-hour window to cancel the contract before it affects your JSS score. And if you don't hear back from a client within 48 hours of them buying your project, the money they placed into escrow will be returned to them and the contract will be canceled. And so in the event that you have an unresponsive client, you don't have to worry about it too much because within 48 hours, it'll be canceled. So then here's some ideas for creating your projects. Let's check out some of the following best practices. So you'll want to choose professional images. You'll want to make the project easy to browse. Proofread your work. Be careful to select your category because a project also won't be accepted in the wrong category. Don't use clickbait, text-heavy graphics, or the Upwork logo or badge. Don't share your contact information or your personal information. We can't advise you on the price, scope, or substance of your project because that's completely up to you. And that's what makes Project Catalog such a great tool for freelancers because it puts you in the driver's seat. So then now we're going to look at the client point of view on a finished project. And this is one of my favorite slides because it really shows you what to expect when you've compiled everything. So this is the first screen they'll look at. So this is the gallery screen. This has the image, the title, the service tier, whether they want to select starter, standard, or advanced. And this is where they can press continue to purchase the project. So then the next thing here is the project details. And so that's the second tab here. That's where they will read the overview that you wrote of your project. Then we've got our project steps, which will show literally the steps that we wrote earlier about the project and what they can expect step by step. Then the next thing is the requirements. And so that's what they need to provide to you in order for you to start the work. And so that will be there under the requirements tab. The next tab is frequently asked questions. And so this is where you will answer their questions preemptively, right? So this is where the frequently asked questions that you wrote will appear for the client. And then underneath that, you've got your name, your headline, and your bio. And then also any badges you may receive along with your job success score. And so you're able to also, have that information on there so your client knows who the freelancer is. And if you have any reviews on your profile, those will show up under reviews. And so that is essentially what the client sees. And so now we can finish our Q&A session. And I really want to thank everyone today more so than ever, because I feel like even after all of the technical difficulties I've gone through today, you guys have stayed with me and you've been here, and I really appreciate that. So now we're going to answer some more questions. Let's take a look. So, can you ask them to discuss their project prior to buying? Yes and no. So, the reason why I say yes and no is because they can contact you, but there are a limited amount of messages you're able to exchange with the client, and it's only client initiated. And so the client has to initiate the conversation with you. I would be very careful with this, though, because it kind of almost defeats the purpose. Really what you want to do is you want to add in a consultation step into the project. So you'll want to wrap up your consultation within your project, if that makes sense. Okay, so then the next question. What happens with an unresponsive client if I've already made some progress for him or her? So this is exactly like a fixed price contract in the sense that, like, if they funded the milestone, that money is in escrow. And so if they are unresponsive, your money is still protected if they've paid for the project already. And so it's the same thing. If you're having an issue, contact customer support and then get a dispute opened. And if they don't ever contact you again, their money is in escrow and you'll receive the money. So that's why it's important to never start work on a project until the money is in escrow. With this project catalog, it almost takes like an extra step out of that equation because you're not having to wait for them to put the money in escrow after the contract is started. They have to purchase it before they can start the project. So it makes it even that much safer to get work done on the platform. Okay. I see that this example is for a fairly low price tag project. Is it better to save this project's modality for higher price projects? Great question. Yes and no. I mean, honestly, it really depends on your project. I feel like I say that all the time. Yes and no, yes and no. It depends on your project, because even if you have like a $10 project, I mean, that's fine too. It really depends on the category, right? One thing I will say is don't underbid yourself. And so from the phrasing of this question, it seems like you're not the type to underbid yourself. So I probably am not speaking to anything that's relevant to you. But I would just make sure that you're keeping with industry standards and offering different levels of service tiers if there are more pricey options that you can throw in there. So I hope that answers your question. I think that's probably a little bit more efficient. Okay. Does project catalog in any way affect my success score if I get to work on any? Yes. So if you do a really great job or if you do a really bad job, unfortunately, project catalog does factor into your job success score. So that's why we want to make sure that we're doing the best job we possibly can on every project we accept, even project catalog. So project catalog, it is easier for you to obtain contracts because you're sort of just pre-packaging your work. But that being said, you need to make sure that everything you define in your project are things that you actually plan on doing. More so than anything else, because you're defining it before the person buys it. So you're setting the expectation. So if the expectation is set, in keeping with being a good business owner and owning your own freelance business, is making sure that you deliver on those things you said you would do. So just make sure that as you're defining those steps, those are the things you actually plan on doing, and you're in keeping with that as you move through. Okay. Let's take a look. When will it be available? It has been rolling out to freelancers for the last month or so. It should be available to all freelancers before the end of the year, if not early next year. And then early next year, it'll be available to everyone. And so, like I said, right now it's still in beta. And so beta, we are still working on it. It is still in the beta phase. So keep that in mind for as you move through the project catalog, you're creating projects, and you're getting everything ready for clients to start purchasing. Okay. Let's see. As a voiceover, say I have a project for up to 200 words. They want 300 words. Can the client and I agree on a different price? That is a great question, and I am unsure of that. But you know what? I wanted to say it because I felt like it was an extremely important question. I will say, in that case, for now, consider having 3 different tiers of service. And so you could do like a first tier, which would be like 200 words. And then the next tier could be like up to, or you could even say like up to 500 words, up to 1,000 words. And so have the 3 different service tiers to kind of anticipate that. But as far as changing prices later, I don't think so, but I'm going to write that down and see if that is an option in the future, because it might be. And if it is, I definitely want to know about it so I can tell everybody else. Okay. I'm going to make myself a quick note there. Perfect. Will other freelancers be able to see my project catalog offer? No, not unless they're clients too. That's the weird thing though, is sometimes freelancers are also clients, so then they can go under the client catalog and look. And so, yeah, we don't want to have our things copy and pasted. I totally agree with you on that. I don't foresee that happening. Because everything has to go through a review process, it would seem unlikely that that would happen. But that is a really good point, and I really do want to bring that to the attention of the moderators and admins, because I feel like that could be something that they could start watching out for. Okay, we have about 8 minutes here. I'm going to do my best to answer all the questions I can. We have like thousands, so thank you for bearing with me. I teach English, so it's quite difficult to create time and scope, as it is usually dependent on what the client wants. It's also difficult to put up samples of my work teaching. Any tips? Okay, so for teaching English, this kind of seems like maybe like a curriculum design. So maybe instead of trying to offer like your teaching services for this project catalog, you could do maybe like curriculum services. So if you teach, you probably also create curriculum. So this is a really good service for like instructional design work. Another tip is if you really did want to sell teaching services through this, you could maybe quantify it within a time period. I know it's hard to create time and scope, but you could say maybe like 1 month of English lessons once a week. So that would be like 4 English lessons. Or you could do packages, 4 English lessons, 6 English lessons, 8 English lessons, that kind of thing. And so creating packages, I think, is a good way to think about it too. So I hope that's helpful. Okay. Ooh, lots of questions. Let's see. If we cancel the project within 24 hours, does it still affect the JSS? No, not currently. Like I said, that could change, but until the end of the year, if you cancel the project within 24 hours, it will not affect your JSS score. Okay. When will clients be able to purchase projects? I don't have a date, but I am told early next year. And so I actually know as much as you right now. So we're waiting on that date. Basically what we're doing is we're still in the beta test. And so that's why a lot of the features aren't 100% ready, but we're working diligently to get our freelancers ready for it so that when it does go live for the clients, all of our freelancers are ready. Okay. Let's see, my project has been approved, but I cannot see it in profile. Where do I see my catalog items? So your catalog items should show up on your profile. If they haven't yet, it's because the feature hasn't been rolled out, but it should be soon. So like I said, we're still in beta, and so it does take time for these things to pop up. And they may not show up on your public profile yet because they're not available to clients yet. Okay. Let's see. What steps do clients need to take in order to send us a direct message from the project screen? Do they need to hire or invite first? So typically, in order to create a conversation with a freelancer, they have to hire you first. In this settings. So in the project catalog setting, they would have to pay for the project before they can talk to you. Although I am told there is a way that they can ask you a couple of questions. I think it's limited to maybe 2 or 3 before purchasing, but it's very limited communication prior to them purchasing the project. And so the best thing that you can do is to really define the project as it stands before they even see it, because then that way when they do see it, it'll kind of limit that, I don't know, kind of limit those questions. So do your best to just really define your project as best as you possibly can. Okay. Lots of questions, and I'm still working my way through some of these, so be patient with me, please. So can the Upwork team that reviews the project's catalog insist on corrections of conditions inside the project? Can this be a reason for rejecting the project, and what do they usually check? That's a great question. So really what they look for is this project complete? Does it define all of the deliverables? Does it meet the specifications as per the terms of service for Upwork? That sort of thing. And so that's really what we're looking for. We're making sure that the project that you submit is something that is in line with our terms of service, outlines the deliverable very well so that someone can purchase it with minimum questioning or confusion, and really just making sure that everything looks legit, right? And so really what I would suggest is, as you're making your project, the best thing that you can do is to define the scope really, really well, and make sure that you're really putting a lot of thought and effort into each section of creating your project. And so make sure to completely fill it out. Think very critically about what you want to place in your project, and proofread. I actually tested this feature myself, and one of the things that I noticed was there is a preview listing button in the top corner, and I would click that constantly to just proofread, because it was like I was missing things, and I was like, oh no, I gotta correct this, oh no, I gotta correct this. And even as I was working through the steps, I was realizing, hey, maybe I should add this in there, maybe I should add this, or I should address this. And so take your time, really think about the scope of your project, chart it all out, and that way there leaves little to no question when the client goes to purchase it. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to answer one more question. Is it possible to set different requirements for different pricing tiers? Yes. Although I have noticed that in order to define those different requirements more extensively, you'll have to do it in the project description. And so under the tiers, all you're able to define is like the price and then a couple of preset options. If you really want to define what comes with each tier, I would suggest putting it in your project description. So that is the webinar. Thank you all so much for joining me today. This was this was a journey, and I appreciate that you all joined me for it. I had some technical difficulties at the beginning, but we got a lot of questions answered, and I hope I was able to introduce you to our awesome new feature that we're going to be rolling out pretty soon here. So again, thank you for being patient with me. Please download the slide deck in your handouts, and that way you can review those at a later date. And I hope to see you all next time. We run these webinars. We're going to be running them once a week. So as things are updated, you're welcome to come join again. I will be having the newest updates every time they are rolled out. So come join us again for the next one. Our next one is on December 10th. And then we will have one again in January, and then every week after that in January. So we will talk soon, and see you on the platform. Bye now.